Philadelphia, San Jose, or DC, Los Angeles Galaxy.
Pitch Pass.
Colorado Rapids, Vancouver Whitecaps, Seattle Sounders, Montreal Impact, USA, New York Red Bulls.
Pitch Pass, your all-access credential to the people that matter in MLS. Here's your host, Greg Roach.
Hey, how are you? It's been a good week, especially if you're a fan of the national team. We'll talk a little national team in a little bit. Let me tell you everything about the show, though. Well, there's only one thing to tell you. PitchPass.com. Go there and let them tell you the rest. And by them, I mean me and Sebastian Salazar and Kyle Sheldon and Mark McClure. That's the Pitch Pass team. If you're following us on Twitter, you know that, at Pitch Pass. If you're not, and please do us a favor and do that. We've got Dax McCarty, New York Red Bulls midfielder. I would argue maybe the best player on the Red Bulls, at least for the last calendar year or so. Yes, you can have your Thierry Henry. I will give you that as well. But other than Henry, Dax McCarty is the guy I would take off of Red Bulls. So we'll talk to him in a little bit. First, though, we will talk national team and DC United with Washington Post soccer insider Steven Goff. He joins us now on Pitch Pass. Steve, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I was, right before you called, I was watching the end of Miracle.
Ooh, so you're all fired up.
Well, yeah, and, you know, it's supposed to be a movie about the 1980 Olympic hockey team, but I think it's the story of DC United's 2013 U.S. Open Cup run.
All right, we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk national team first, since that was your beat for the last few weeks. You did your best to make some enemies in Seattle, but apparently they stepped up and did what they had to do and put together a nice little atmosphere for you while you were there. Yeah,
it was a great atmosphere, and yeah, there was never any doubting there'd be a great atmosphere. It was just the expectation when the game was awarded to Seattle that, you know, Seattle had been clamoring for a game for so long, and, you know, you'd always hear from people in Seattle saying, "Oh, come on, stick a game here. It could be anything. We'll sell it." Well, you know, here's a final round World Cup qualifier, and there were still several thousand tickets out a day or two before the game. So, yeah, it was a great crowd. It turned out to be great. They didn't quite get to the 42,000 capacity. I mean, it was 47,000 for a meaningless friendly at RFK. Now, obviously, that was Germany, although a C squad, and it was a weekend. It was a great crowd. It was a great scene. Seattle.
You know, it's funny, Steve. I was trying to bait you into doing some Seattle trolling, and you're just doing it on your own. Nice work, buddy.
Yeah, man, I'm laying out the facts here, you know. I mean, I think Seattle has been so great at drawing crowds since they entered the league that, you know, the bar has been raised, and the bar's raised on themselves.
Yeah.
So when you throw a final round World Cup qualifier there, you would have thought tickets would be gone in a couple weeks, but they weren't. As it turned out, like I said, they got close to the 42, not quite to 42. Great atmosphere, great scene, and the thing about it is that it was, you know, 95 to 99% U.S. fans.
Yeah,
and that's what made it special, because you go, there's a lot of U.S. games that are staged in this country, around the country, and you know, there's this, you could break down the percentage. You know, when they play Mexico in a big crowd, it's mostly Mexican. If they play Guatemala, Honduras, at a big place, a large contingent from supporting those teams. So this was pretty special, and the U.S. played well to the audience. Well,
your point about it being a pro-American, and it's an overwhelmingly pro-American crowd is something that the U.S. Soccer Federation has been trying to find for years outside of Columbus, which we know is a stronghold for Mexico purposes. Is it a slam dunk? Because I know I saw you tweet about this, that they probably will be back in Seattle at some point. But is it a slam dunk when you factor in what happens at Rio Tinto, and then down the road what will happen in the fall in Kansas City? That is when the U.S. needs a spot to be pro-U.S. 90, 95, 100% pro-U.S., we go to Seattle.
No, I think there's a lot of places you can go. I think Kansas City is terrific. Colorado worked with a few snowflakes. Columbus is a reliable place, obviously. Salt Lake. Salt Lake's great. There's it depends on how many people you think you can attract. I mean, you don't want to play. I think you got to be careful with some of these games. I mean, in Seattle, for instance, you're playing Panama. Panama does not have a big following in this country. So, Seattle, people are going to buy most of the tickets, and that's great in this U.S. atmosphere. I think you could play Panama there. I think you could probably play Costa Rica there, and Jamaica. You cannot. I don't think you can play Mexico or Honduras or El Salvador, even in Seattle.
Wow.
Because I think people try to look. There was a game years ago in Birmingham, Alabama. The U.S. played Guatemala in a qualifier. Birmingham, Alabama. Doesn't get any more American than that. And they played in a big stadium. They played at Legion Field, the football field, and there was a huge number of Guatemalans there. So anywhere, my theory is that anywhere Southwest Airlines flies, people will go. And you put a game, in any of these cities that against a team that has a following, and the fans will come. So you have to be careful. You have to be selective. We're never going to see another U.S. versus Honduras World Cup qualifier at RFK Stadium in 2001. It's just they've learned their lessons, and they're going to pick locations very carefully.
I don't want to minimize the fantastic result. I also don't want to minimize the fact that the road to Brazil is a lot clearer now than it was before this last round of matches. But I do want to ask you how much stock you put into a win against a team that doesn't historically travel that great without their leading scorer, and how much stock are we putting into the performance that we saw against Panama? Well,
the result was it should be expected. I mean,
yes,
you should win all your home games in World Cup qualifying. Period. If there's a little hiccup along the way and you tie Mexico or Costa Rica or something, okay. But you're playing Panama at home. You should win. No arguments there. Doesn't matter who's on the field, where you're playing. You should beat Panama at home in a World Cup qualifier, and they did. But I think what was most encouraging was that they looked pretty darn good doing it. There was a real rhythm and flow to the attack. They had a few scary moments in the first half and then late in the game, but they really controlled the game. I mean, Michael Bradley commanded the midfield, and Altidore stuck in another one, and there was some good setups, and Beasley could have capped it off just a great sequence, and he nicked the post. But I think it's the performance too, and we saw it in Jamaica too. Even though they allowed that late equalizer, that was a pretty good performance in Jamaica. I was there, and there were Jamaican fans streaming out of the stadium in the 82nd, 83rd minute. It was still a one-goal game, but it was just like, Jamaica can't do anything against them. The U.S. is in control of this game. They're controlling the rhythm, the tempo, the pace. And then they scored off a set piece, setting up the dramatic finish. But, they looked pretty good. And it started with that Germany game here at RFK. Aside from the late scare when they allowed a couple sloppy goals, that was a good effort too.
I don't think that I think that what we are talking about as far as Jermaine Jones versus Jeff Cameron is a issue. I don't think that Klinsmann thinks of it as an issue. But would you like to see Michael Bradley and Jeff Cameron get a little run of matches together in midfield?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, Cameron looked really good. He allowed Bradley to the freedom to go forward. I mean, Jones does a lot of that as well. Jones brings a little more edge to the game. Cameron, I think, a little more nuance and size. I don't know. I don't think I think Bradley could play with either one of them, and I don't think there's much transition. I mean, obviously he's not going to go back and forth alternating the two of them, but I think Klinsmann now knows that Jeff Cameron can play defensive midfield and partner with Michael Bradley. That's a good sign. I still think he really loves Jermaine Jones.
Yeah.
He just brings that edge and that grit, and he just works in the engine room there and supports Bradley. So, it's a bit of a dilemma, but it's a good dilemma to have. Cameron has shown his versatility too. He can play center back. He can play a little bit of right back. The U.S. has, I think, 9 guys sitting on yellow cards now too.
Yeah.
So, inevitably, someone else is going to get suspended. We know that Beasley's out for Honduras, and then someone's bound to get a yellow in that game. So then you're going into Costa Rica, perhaps down a guy or two. So, that's important. Versatility is important. Clemson likes guys who can play different positions. We've seen it from Fabian Johnson. He can play left back, left midfield. They can play him on the right side of midfield as a wing. Cameron, obviously. Beasley, he's not a left back, but he's playing left back and he can get forward. Dempsey can play in midfield. He can play up top. So, versatility is important.
It feels like, and this is the last national team point, the defense still is unsettled. It feels like he's getting by with his outside back options. Do you feel that? Do you feel that Omar Gonzalez and Matt Beasler are the two guys moving forward, and we're just going to have to grow with them as they go through their growing pains, or is there somebody else in the mix that could be a candidate for center back?
No, I mean, I think right now that's the best pairing, and they're getting better together. Clarence Goodson and Cameron are, probably number 3 and number 4 as center back options. Carlos Bocanegra, who Klinsmann does not consider a left back. He considers him a center back. That's why he didn't call him in, because he thinks those 4 guys are ahead of Bocanegra on the depth chart. Bocanegra, for his experience, is there. Maurice Adu, who's missed this because of injury, can play a little center back if necessary. This is what Klinsmann wanted to do all along, was find the guys, put them in difficult situations. There might be some tough moments, but they're going to grow and they're going to learn and they're going to get better. Now, playing against Jamaica, which only played with 1 striker, and playing against Panama, which was missing its best finisher, is that the best test for these guys? No, but they're playing together and they're growing. Honduras will present some more challenges. And then in the fall, the Costa Rica-Mexico doubleheader of sorts, that's going to be a tough one for those guys.
Well, let's talk about them, Steve. I'm talking about your beat.
Who, the Washington Spirit?
Yes. All right, so nice win in U.S. Open Cup for DC United, beating Philadelphia Union.
Sure they won.
I believe they've already released the next round of matches, and DC United is one of the teams playing in the next round. So yes,
yeah.
I'm confident to say that they won. Listen, I don't know what that helps as we go back into league play. I want to be Mr. Positive here, and it's going to be hard, but I want to be Mr. Positive when I ask you some questions about DC United. And first, I'm going to make some excuses. A lot of injuries to the attacking options, some nicks along the back line that haven't helped. Is that the reason why this team has sucked so hard for the first part of the season?
There's a lot of reasons. I came up with 10.
Yeah, I read your 10, and they were great.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one thing. It's a lot of things. And, they're playing with one striker, but they don't really have a striker. They're relying on 35-year-old Di Rosario, who had knee surgery and is just starting to hit his rhythm. They have had catastrophic breakdowns by who they thought were reliable center backs in consecutive games. McDonald and Jakovic. Pontius has not had an impact. De Leon was out for a long time because of injury. Bill Hamid's still a young keeper. At times he's spectacular, one of the best in the league. At other times he shows an experience. So, and then they didn't do much during the off season, the front office. They thought, well, hey, look, we got the conference final with this group. Boskovic wasn't a full-time player, so we don't really need him, and we can save the money. Salihi didn't fit in, so we don't need him. Maicon Santos had a few moments last year, but wasn't a consistent scorer, so we don't really need him. We'll bring in a few little pieces, like John Thornton, James Riley, guys like that, and we'll do what we did last year, and we'll be okay. But yeah, I think that team overachieved down the stretch last year. To their credit, I mean, it was pretty inspiring what they did last fall. But the pure technical talent, I think it was still middling at best in this league. So you throw all those reasons together, and you come out with a team that might struggle, and then everything went wrong. Between defensive issues, between the injuries. It just all turned sour. So that's where we are.
Okay, well, it's a little hard to be a little positive after that, but I'm going to try to push forward and say, okay, having said that, that stretch of the year hopefully is over, and if the injuries are starting to take care of themselves, you get a D-Row hat trick against an A team from Philadelphia Union. You can say it was U.S. Open Cup all you want, but that was an MLS team, and that was their starting side, and he put a hat trick on them. So you hope maybe that's the start of his turnaround, and then you get the run of matches that are coming up against teams that, whilst better than DC United as far as points are concerned, aren't the greatest team. So if the turnaround's going to happen, it has to start now. Correct?
Yep, this is it. I mean, no, you're absolutely right. They're playing. They got a bunch of home games in a row against teams that are not burning up the league, and you got an Open Cup game at home as well in there. So Toronto at home, San Jose, Vancouver, all in league play at RFK, plus the New England Cup quarterfinal. Casper said they're not giving up on the regular season. They still think they have a shot to turn this around. It's going to be awfully difficult because they played so many games already. But they feel like it's starting to turn. Guys are getting healthier. De Rosario's in shape and in rhythm. They promise, anyway, some roster additions this summer during the window. I'm still a little skeptical about how much money they're willing to spend.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up to that, because as a DC United fan, that doesn't make me really feel any better, because I can count on my hand, and I don't even need all my fingers to tell you the personnel decisions that they have brought in that have had an impact. I can count on. I need all my hands, all my fingers to count the decisions or the personnel, the people that they brought in who haven't had an impact, who've been disappointing. Yeah. One of them you just saw in Seattle playing for Panama and probably being one of the worst players on the field in that match. So is that's not something that's going to get me excited to hear that the regime that has brought in the type of players that have been brought in are telling me they're going to bring in another player.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're up to. They've been scouting in Europe. They're looking closely at, I believe, a player from Red Star Belgrade. They're not in a position like LA or New York or Seattle where they're going to spend millions of dollars on a designated player. It's not going to happen. I mean,
until the new stadium or ever with this ownership group.
Oh, until a stadium is
Okay.
built. They're losing money. They're tired of losing money. They can't lose money anymore. And as long as they're at RFK, they're going to lose money. And if they could be a competitive team with a lower payroll than the big name teams, then that's what they're going to do. That's just the reality of it. They're not. This is a business, and the business is losing a lot of money. People can make the argument, well, if you go out and you spend the money, make the investment, bring in a great player, then the crowds are going to come and your ticket revenue will go up and everything. Yeah, that's true, but you're still at RFK Stadium and you're not making much money, and that's the reality of it.
But I understand that, Steve. But then I look at Houston, I look at Kansas City, and yes, they are in their own stadiums and they're freshly in there. They're not spending a lot of money either. My problem isn't that they didn't bring a big name in. My problem is that the names they're bringing in aren't doing anything.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They need to find the next Christian Gomez. Christian. No one really heard of Christian Gomez before DC signed him. He wasn't making $1 million.
Yeah.
They scouted and found him, and Christian Gomez turned that team into championship caliber. That's what happened. And those are the types of guys you need to find. I mean, Real Salt Lake has found players like that.
They're another team. Yep.
Those aren't $1 million players, and they've done it. Houston is a great example. Houston just always has the right chemistry, the right pieces to put in. They don't spend enormous amounts of money. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's spending it's getting your money's worth, or finding a gem out there. Sometimes the designated player is going to work. Robbie Keane works. Thierry Henry works. It's worth those teams to spend the money on those guys because they're generating attention off the field, and these guys are quality players. DC's not going to get a total package player like that, but they can find some good players at reasonable salaries that'll put them back in competition with the rest of the league.
Before I let you go, you mentioned that you spoke with DC United GM Dave Casper recently. We'll post a link to that article at pitchpass.com. I wanted to get some further thoughts on that conversation that you had, and the first one was that I don't know if you were quoting him or you were speculating, was that the ownership group has been supportive of the management team, but concerned about what's going on. That was kind of read to me as like a mixed signal almost. Is his job on the line? Is he on the hook for any of this stuff?
Yeah. I would imagine. I would imagine if they don't turn this around and make the playoffs, that Casper's job is in great jeopardy. The team gave him full authority essentially. When Kevin Payne was bumped out, this became Dave Casper's team. There was no one looking over his shoulder anymore. There was no one from above influencing his decisions. The whole Alam, the Indonesian player, that's a whole thing. I'm not going to lump that in with this, but this is Casper's moment to do it on his own. I mean, he had made most of the decisions over the years anyway. It's not like Kevin Payne was picking out which trialists to sign. I mean, Casper was doing all this stuff. So, but now he's on his own. He's standing on his own. He's trying to stand on his own. Now, people are saying, well, Casper should be fired. This team's a disaster. Okay, but you're really going to fire your general manager in the middle of the season? And then what? This is MLS. There are no assistant general managers out there ready to step into the position. Front offices are much smaller in this league than in baseball or basketball. So you got to have a plan. You can't just fire the general manager and figure, okay, we'll just go hire someone to make the decisions. Well, who are you going to hire?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to hire a college coach? No, these guys have full-time jobs. Are you going to steal someone from the lower leagues in the middle of their seasons? No. So Casper's job now is to fix what is wrong. Working with Ben Olsen and working with the front office in terms of how much money they can spend. You know, they made a mess of this, and now they got to clean it up. And if they don't clean it up by the end of the year, I imagine, you know, the technical staff will face the wrath of this investment team, which cleared out the business side of it.
Yeah. But so if I'm a United fan, which I am, the bloom is off the rose of this investment team. The talk last year was very, very exciting, and so thus far there has been zero return on that investment. Where am I confidence-wise that this ownership group is as passionate and as hardworking, and I'm thinking specifically about getting that stadium, as they portrayed themselves at that press conference last year?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened publicly. In terms of the stadium, you know, we know there's a lot of talks going on.
Well, and I would go a step further, Steve, and say that what has happened has been worrisome. What has happened is Jason Levian has taken on an ownership piece of the Memphis Grizzlies. Eric Tahir is rumored to be trying to become a part of Inter Milan. It sounds like the guys who were supposed to be focusing on this have decided they're going to focus on other things now.
I definitely see how that looks, but I don't. I mean, Levian delegates responsibility in both positions, Memphis and DC, to others. He's not, you know, he's not making decisions every hour about these two franchises. I mean, this, you know, if he's in Memphis one day, there are people working on things here. It's not like he's missing important meetings because he's somewhere else. He lives in D.C. He's here most of the time. So here is from a family, a billionaire family. They have toys. DC United's a small toy. Inter Milan would be a big toy. He's the money guy. He's not, you know, he lives in Jakarta. He's not involved in day-to-day. You know, he put his trust in Jason to run this team. So, you know, I don't go for the argument that these guys aren't fully devoted to the team. They're living up to what they're supposed to do. You know. So here's the money man. He gave the money. Levian's the face of the investment team. He's trying to run a successful franchise. The team is not doing well, and they haven't gotten a stadium, so certainly he needs to produce. And the on-field product has just complicated matters. You know, they thought that was the least of the problems. You know, Levian went into the season thinking, all right, the on-field product's getting better. We got a little buzz in the city. The team's a playoff contender. We're okay there. I'm going to worry about the stadium. We're going to get that done. Everything's going to fall in line, and we're going to be a major franchise in this league again.
That didn't happen.
No, and the fact that they don't, the fact that they haven't made anything public about the stadium, that's a little troubling. But we do know that something might come up again with Maryland, in the state of Maryland, not Baltimore, but in the D.C. area, if they can't get something substantial, make some substantial gains with the city by this fall.
Well, my positivity is all gone. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. We've got to talk to Dax McCarty, so I'm going to let you go, but we'll get you a little later on in the season, get an update, and hopefully it'll be talking about playoffs with DC United.
Yeah, man. Well, no doubt about it.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, you got it.
That's the Soccer Insider for Washington Post. It is Steve Goff on Pitch Pass. At Soccer Insider if you'd like to follow him. I mentioned that he is on the line, so let's get to him. New York Red Bulls midfielder extraordinaire, Dax McCarty joins us now. Dax, how are you, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Dax, I apologize for being late. I had Steve Goff on as the first guest, and you know what a blabbermouth that guy can be. Well, just won't stop talking.
Yeah. He likes to talk, but then again, so do I. So I can't really say much.
I wanted to just talk about all good stuff, but then you had the U.S. Open Cup result, and now we've got to talk about some not so good stuff. What happened in the match versus New England Revolution?
Yeah, no, it's just it's one of those games where certain things just kind of it feels like a day that's just kind of against you and not going your way. We never make excuses, as athletes. Every team is kind of dealing with different little things, but we certainly didn't do ourselves any favors by, getting stuck in traffic and showing up 45 minutes before the game, walking about a quarter of a mile to make it to the stadium so we could warm up. So that was a little bit of a tough start for us. And then obviously we give up a goal 3 minutes into the game, which clearly showed that we really weren't ready to play. So from then on, it just kind of spiraled out of control. New England had all the momentum. It's one of those U.S. Open Cup games where, little mistakes, they seem to be magnified. And we made little mistakes all over the field. And it was certainly conducive to what they wanted to do. And I think we gave them pretty easy goals. So it was a really, really tough way to go out. But at the end of the day, we have to give New England credit. They took advantage of our mistakes, and we move on and focus on the league.
Who makes the decision that we're getting out and walking?
I think it was, I'm not sure who exactly made the decision, but I think it was kind of a collective effort, group effort saying, listen, the traffic was completely absurd. It was some of the worst I'd ever been in, and we really were just dead stop, not moving. And we had, one of the guys, Andre Akpan, who was with us, actually played at Harvard. He was telling everyone we were pretty close, and it was just kind of a collective decision. Obviously, I think our head coach, Mike Petke, probably made the final decision, and we decided to get out and walk, and it ended up being the right decision because I heard later on that the bus that we were in didn't even show up to the stadium until 10 minutes after kickoff. So it was kind of a crazy hassle, but look, that's not an excuse. We just weren't ready to play.
I wonder what happens in that situation. Like, you'd think they'd hold the match up for you guys, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a decision with New England, and New England being our friendly rivals up north, they certainly weren't going to do us any favors. We took it to them at home, and I think that was their first kind of big loss of the season. So they were trying to get back at us a little bit, and we as a unit, we just weren't ready to play. It's a lot of little things, but at the end of the day, New England took advantage of their opportunities. They were in front of a pretty good, noisy crowd. It was on a terrible field, which obviously they're used to with being at Gillette. But at the end of the day, we didn't play well enough to win, and they did.
How often does Andre bring up that he played soccer at Harvard?
He doesn't bring it up too much. I think we know all about it.
Are you the type of person that if you had played soccer at Harvard, you'd be bringing that up in any conversation that you could?
Yeah, I would probably bring it up in subtle conversation, see if people catch on. Oh, he went to Harvard and he was an athlete. It's a solid combination that Andre's got going for him. If only he was a little better looking.
So, are you now back in your Manhattan estate?
I am. Yep, we're back. We're back in New York, cozy in the inside because it's raining and the weather is terrible. But yep, we're just preparing for. We have another weekend of off from MLS play, and now we got to prepare for Philly. It's a huge game on the road next Sunday.
I want to ask you just a couple of things about U.S. Open Cup. And obviously, I know that you respect the Cup or the tournament, and it's got to be difficult. This is a little bit different, I would imagine, than losing a league game. Any loss hurts, but a league game, all right, we got next week. Whereas in this kind of knockout tournament style, we had a bad day, and now the whole run is over.
No, it's frustrating. That's why the Open Cup is unique, and that's why it's so hard to win the Open Cup because you know that if you have an off night, any team can beat you. And unfortunately, we had an off night. I think we, as a unit, like I said before, we just weren't ready to play. It's one of those things where I don't think, no disrespect to New England, I don't think they're a better team than we are. They have some talent, and their talented players certainly made us pay for being lackadaisical. So it's a tough one. It's frustrating. We the bus ride home was a little bit more painful than we would have liked it to be because we lost. So we know that there's no chances to make up for it. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait for the league, and I think we're going to have to put a little bit extra effort now into doing better in the league and staying on top of the East and keeping up with the teams around us.
What are your thoughts on playing in these different, much more intimate venues during these Open Cup matches?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great to switch it up and to play in venues that I think the fans can get a little bit closer and it's a little bit more intimate, like you said. At the end of the day, it's a double-edged sword because you never want to compromise playing in a really small, tight venue for the fans and compromising the field. No disrespect to Harvard or anyone at their institution, but the field. It was worse than Gillette, it was smaller and the turf was certainly not very good. So it's one of those things where it's like, how much do you compromise wanting to change up the venue, make it intimate, make it more like a cup game feel, but then also you lose a little bit of quality. I think a couple of my friends watched the game on the live feed and they said it kind of looked like a high school game, just with the way everything was set up with. It being a cup game on a tough field, small environment. So it's not an excuse for us. New England had to play on the same field. They were the better team on the night, but at the end of the day, it's a double-edged sword. You win some things and you lose some things when it comes to that.
I want to talk about your blog in a couple of minutes, but I want to bring up something that you mentioned in the blog and kind of tie it into what your last comment was about the field and the conditions. You mentioned Columbus Crew and Crew Stadium. What's your favorite MLS stadium outside of your own that you like to go to, as far as field conditions, as far as the city itself, as far as the visiting locker room? Which one do you go, oh, okay, sweet, we're going here this week. It's going to be cool.
Well, there's two of them. There's first and foremost is Toronto. I love going to Toronto. The city is one of my favorite cities that I get to visit. It's one of those cities where you just love the vibe of the city. It's got a very New York City feel. It's just in Canada. But yeah, it's a great city. That's one that I really look forward to. And then the other one, which is probably, a little bit different, is Real Salt Lake in terms of just their stadium is one of the best in the league. Their locker rooms are top class. Their field is always in great condition. It's definitely one of the best fields we play on in MLS. So, and then the atmosphere, the fans in Salt Lake, they seem to have a special thing going on over there with the special relationship they have with the players, and they seem to sell out more games than they don't. So I really enjoy playing in Salt Lake. It's always a tough, hard-fought game, and those are the two that I look forward to going to.
You're doing the Jeter thing, right? You're living in the city, correct?
Yeah, I do. I do live in the city.
So you're a great person to ask about New York City FC. Now, I don't want to get into the politics and to all that other stuff, and I know that you, when they get to the league, will consider them a huge rival, if not your biggest rival. But that day that the announcement was made, what was your initial reaction, and what was the reaction in the locker room to a team coming in and kind of treading on the turf that you guys own?
I think our initial reaction, at least mine, was great. This is great for the league. This is great for MLS. This is great for soccer in America in general. When you see the name, Manchester City, New York Yankees, you get a real sense that globally around the world, MLS is starting to be more recognizable, and or else teams like the Yankees and Manchester City wouldn't want to, invest in the project that is New York City FC. But at the same time, the first thing that came to my mind was I still hope I'm playing for the Red Bulls when they come into MLS, because I want to be the first team that kicks their ass, off the field, because they're a rival. I mean, we have a couple of them here in the Northeast, and I think with obviously the proximity to us and them kind of being located in New York and us kind of being in Jersey, I think there's going to be a little bit of that feel of, well, we're here first, but we're in Jersey, so it's kind of it's going to be a fun rivalry that I think we'll be able to get going pretty quickly. So it's a great thing for the league, and I think we're all just looking forward to getting on the field and playing against them.
I know you've been back and playing for a few weeks, but where are you health-wise, and does this little lull in your schedule come at a good time for you?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a frustrating past, I'd say month and a half for me. I had my injury, and I got fit. I missed a couple games and I got fit, but then I wasn't really fit. My quad felt better, but I had a bunch of little niggling injuries that kind of just come along with having an injury in general. So my back was struggling pretty mightily for the past, I'd say, month. But this break comes at a good time. Starting to feel a little bit better. I've kind of been struggling through the past 3 or 4 games that I've been playing, but I think that when you hit a certain age and that when you get to a point of the season, you're never really going to play 100%. You're always going to have little things that bother you. And so for me, it's just a matter of trying to get back to as close as I was before my initial injury. And I think that I'm finally kind of starting to get back to that point. I'm probably at like 75-80% right now. So this break, this weekend off comes at another good time. And I know that in order for us to be successful, all the guys on our team have to be at their best level, and that includes me. So I need to get back to my form that I had before my injury, and we need to make a strong push in the second half of the season.
Dax, you say a certain age. You just turned 26 like a month ago. What is this certain age that you're talking about where you have to start managing your injuries?
Yeah, it's funny because you don't really, you don't associate that with being old. But I've been in the league for 8 years now, and I've been doing this for a long time, since I was 18, and it's one of those things where I think that I feel good, but I also feel like my body's starting to kind of feel that wear and tear, and starting to kind of feel like I need to do more in order to stay as fit as I can be. I feel like my best years are still ahead of me, obviously, but it's just one of those things that I need to know that if I'm not working hard enough off the field, my body's gonna feel it on the field. So I think I need to be a little bit better, a little bit more conscious of making sure I'm getting in the gym every day and getting treatment every day for little things to keep my muscles nice and loose. But like I said, when you've been doing it for a few years now at a high level, you're not getting any younger. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of years and trying to stay as healthy as I can.
I want to give you a chance to swoop in and talk about a guy on your team who's been kind of people grumbling about disappointment. And, you talk about age. This is Juninho is of a certain age. Has he been what you have thought he would be? And what is he bringing to the table that maybe the naysayers aren't seeing?
Yeah, no, Juninho's been great. He's a guy that you look at his technical ability and you look at where he's played and the level that he's played at for such a long time. And you can't argue with the fact that he's probably one of the best players on our team in terms of possession, in terms of keeping the ball moving for us. He's certainly not a traditional number 10, and I think that's kind of something people expected of him when he came in. He's not a guy that's going to buzz around the field and take guys on 1v1 off the dribble. I mean, when you get to a certain age, the legs just don't go as fast as they used to. So I think he's been everything that we've expected. It's certainly everything I've expected. His deliveries from set pieces have been very good. He's created a lot of dangerous opportunities for us there. And, his fitness level is very high for his age. So he's a guy that I think when it comes to MLS and being able to play in the middle of the field and battle and have to do the work that is required, I think that he's held up pretty well so far. But at the end of the day, he brings a lot of things, a lot of intangibles to the table that people don't see, and it's a lot more than just numbers. So I'm still hoping that we get a free kick, 20, 25 yards out, and he bends one in the top corner for us because he did it a lot in preseason. So now we're just hoping that translates to the game. I'm
looking for a tactful way to ask you the next question, and there really isn't. So I'm just gonna ask you, and that is when he is in the lineup with you, you have to do more running, correct?
You can look at it like that. I think that when he's in the lineup with me, I just have to be a little bit smarter tactically, and that's something that I need to be better at. I think sometimes I get a little excited when I'm playing. Whenever I'm on the field, I'm always looking for opportunities where, maybe I can sneak forward and try to get in the box and get a chance on goal. That's just part of my nature. But I think with Juninho, I need to be a little bit smarter tactically because I think he's going to be a guy that floats a little bit more and tries to roam and find gaps where he can have a little bit more time on the ball. So if he gets caught out of position a little bit, I need to make sure that I'm in a spot where I can cover for him and I can kind of pick up the slack defensively because I don't think Juninho's role so much is to be that guy that's going to be a midfield two-way enforcer, the guy that tries to win the ball back more along the lines of Tim Cahill.
Yeah.
When Tim Cahill's in the lineup with me. I won't deny that. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit more of a burden on me to to play, more defensive and run a little bit more and win the ball back. But I think when I'm fully fit and healthy, I think that's something that I can do without a problem. Now it's just a matter of me getting back to 100%.
People who know you would say it was a slam dunk as far as your personality is concerned for you to have a blog. Now, I would argue that we had no idea whether your personality would translate to the written word or whether you would even want to be a writer. How did that all come about, and how are you enjoying being a blogger?
Yeah, no, it came about with, just an opportunity from goal.com. I think they reached out to my agent and, said they would love it if I gave it a shot. And at first I was hesitant. I always kind of, like to have fun and try to, find different ways to show my personality to the fans and whatnot. And I think I do a decent job of that on Twitter and Instagram. I enjoy that. I think when you do a blog, it kind of takes it up to a little bit of a different level. And at first I was skeptical, but after I wrote my first one, I kind of, I said that I was just going to have fun with it. And I wasn't going to take myself too seriously. I think fans and people in general, they like to see a little bit of a different side of you, and not just all serious, not just all business and talking about soccer. And I think that I've done a fairly decent job of that. I put the blog on hold a little bit because my injury came around and I was grumpy, and I figured that I would be just doing rehab and not doing too much off the field. And I don't think I should be writing about going bungee jumping and parasailing when I'm injured. So it was one of those things that I'll probably start it back up here in the next couple of weeks when we get back going in the season, and when we start making a push for a playoff spot and hopefully a supporter shield. So it's something that I just want to have fun with, and hopefully people enjoy it.
You started at a great time because you've been in great form for a long time now, going back to even 2 seasons ago. But I know personally, like an experience that, say, like Bobby Boswell had, where it's all fine and dandy when you're a blogger and you got your website and you're Mr. Funny Guy when things are going well, and then when he hit a bad run of form, everybody blamed now. Oh, it's the reason he's goofing off too much. He's got too much going on. He's got a blog. Is that something that is in your mind as you think about the blog moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You're always cautious of that. You always make sure that it's kind of, you have to walk a fine line between, not taking yourself too serious, but also showing people that you care. Because it's one of those things where, if people think that you just don't care, then, I think they'll take it personally. And for me, whenever we lose a game, I try not to go too goofy on, a blog or social media or whatnot, because I know it hurts people. We have fans that have been with us for 16, 17 years. And when we lose, it kind of ruins their night, ruins their weekend, whatever it may be. So they need to know that it hurts us too. I mean, obviously losing the Open Cup game, you didn't see me on social media afterwards. I wasn't tweeting anything or doing anything like that because it was something that it kind of pissed me off. And that's something that, I think the fans respect when you have fun and when you mess around, but they also respect the fact that when you lose, you shouldn't be happy. You should be upset about it. So it's one of those things that, some fans, you're never going to win everyone over. There's always going to be someone that says, Lionel Messi couldn't play on the New York Red Bulls. He's not good. And you're just going to have to laugh it off because, at the end of the day, what matters is what your teammates and coaches think. And if you have the respect of them, then you're doing something right. So you can't please everyone. That's the one thing I've learned, and the one thing that I think I'll probably take with me as I get older, because there are going to be some people that love you and praise you and think you're the greatest player in MLS, and there are going to be other people that think that you probably couldn't make their rec league team. So you can never get too high and never get too low. That's the one thing that I always try to remember.
I know you're going to sigh, as most people would, or guys who are kind of in the national team picture but aren't in the national team picture. Have you had any contact with anyone from the U.S. Soccer Federation about future prospects for you?
I haven't. No, I haven't had any contact with anyone from U.S. Soccer. And, like I've said a few times before when I've been asked this, it's a situation that's a challenge. And it's something that, I look forward to trying to break through a tough situation. The U.S. has a very good midfield, very deep, a lot of talented players. So it's not going to be easy. I think it takes, a lot to catch Jurgen's attention, and hopefully, in the next couple of months I'll be able to do that. But the only way I can do that is playing well with the Red Bulls. So my main focus and sole focus is just making sure that that my club team is doing well and we're near the top of the table. And I'm playing 90 minutes every week. That's something that I pride myself in is playing 90 minutes week in and week out and not being injured. And I think, I certainly didn't do myself any favors for the Gold Cup by getting the injury when I did. I think it was a little bit of unfortunate timing, but it's water under the bridge. I always wish the U.S. team all the best, and if I ever get a chance to go into camp, I'll give it a good go, and hopefully I can make an impression on the coaches, and they see that I have something to bring to the team.
Do you and Pontius commiserate over the bad luck of the bad timing of the injuries just ahead of Gold Cup?
I tell you what, I've been pretty lucky in terms of my my health and my injuries. Pontius, I don't know if he's got some serious bad karma coming his way, because it seems like the bad karma only comes when it's national team time.
Yeah.
And, the injuries he gets, you just can't understand, because he was certainly one of the best players in the league last year, and you would have expected him to get a call into January camp. And when he got injured, that was just another thing that you kind of add to the list of disappointments for him. But he's a very good player. We all know that. I think that's obvious. He's a good friend of mine, and I like to give him a lot of crap. But at the end of the day, you have to respect what he's done on the field, and what he's done on the field has been pretty impressive the past couple of years. So when he's healthy and when he's fit and motivated, I think there's not really many better attackers in the league, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets a chance with the national team and shows everyone what he can do.
I got frustrated for you, Dax, because as I was putting this whole thing together and thinking to myself, oh, you know what? Dax isn't even one of those guys that has gotten a chance and then fallen on his face. Every time you've turned out for the national team, you've played well. And I can think of the January camp in particular where there were matches where you were the best guy on the field. So I can't imagine being in your shoes and thinking to yourself, what the heck do I have to do to step myself out from everybody else here?
Yeah, that was, it's funny. That was one of the most proud moments I've ever had in my career, was when I got to wear the captain's band for the national team against Chile back in January camp. I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I can't quite remember, but that was a moment that, I took and I tried to say, okay, this is just another step in your career, and now you just have to try to get better and improve and continue to be in the national team. And so it's funny when, you have one coach in Bob Bradley who I think was, a fan of mine, and who was, certainly a guy that, I could have gotten plenty of call-ups under. When he gets fired and they bring in a new coach, that new coach has, his preferences and his way of thinking and his way of playing. And, I think it's just a little bit of bad luck that I haven't gotten a chance yet. So, yeah, it's definitely something I look at and think maybe, if things were different, maybe I'd have a few more caps to my name. But you can't look at that. You just have to try to keep being positive and stay focused and, try to improve with each game, because I think when you're a little bit older, you're expected to be more consistent. When you're younger, and you have a good game and a bad game, people say, oh, he's young. But when you're in your mid-20s and you're kind of entering into your prime, people expect you to have a high level every time you step on the field, and that's something that I think I've improved on tremendously. So, yeah, it's been fun when I have played for the national team. I think I've done a decent enough job to stay in there, but it's very competitive. That's all I can say. It's very competitive, and I hope that one of these days I'll get a chance under Jurgen. I'm
going to ask you a question, but I have an ulterior motive for asking it. The question is, and before you answer, I want to tell you why I'm asking. The question is, where is that Chilean friendly jersey at? And the reason I ask is because Nick Raimondo gave me one of his national team jerseys one time, and I looked back afterwards, and at the time he only had one cap, and I was like, did he just give me the only cap jersey that he owns? And I was kind of flabbergasted. So where is your jersey from the match against Chile right now?
The jersey is actually at home with my parents, and it's funny you should ask. I remembered thinking as soon as that game finished, I'll keep the armband and I'll keep the jersey too, and make sure my parents have it in safekeeping and frame it. But maybe I need to get them to ship it to me or ship it directly to you. Maybe that'll give me some good luck.
Well, what I'm thinking now is that Raimondo just ran off like 70 jerseys with his name on the back, and now he just hands them out, and people go, "Wow, this is a huge gift. Thank you, Nick."
Exactly. Well, I need to do the same. I need to ask him. If he's got a jersey guy.
Dax, thank you, man. Appreciate it. And get healthy and continued success throughout the rest of the season.
I will, man. Thanks a lot.
Take it easy.
Good speaking to you again, Rod.
Pitch Pass.
This is your voice. This is my red, white, and blue. This is my anthem to you.
For more show information, go to pitchpass.com.